In this video, we're going to take a look at how to utilize Excel to be able to get probabilities for the binomial distribution, for the Poisson distribution, and then for the normal distribution. Suppose for some reason that we have a binomial distribution, all right? And we know that the probability of success for some reason, let's say that P is going to be equal to 30%, all right? And let's say for some reason we have a sample of, let's say, 20 people, let's say, and maybe this is like some sort of drug is useful 30% of the time, and we test it on 20 people. One of the questions that we answered was, what's the probability of maybe 5 successes, right? And earlier in the course, what we did was we said, okay, well, that's going to be equal to 20 combination 5, 0.3 to the fifth, or 0.30 to the fifth, and then 0.70, which is the complement, right? So Q is 1 minus 0.3, which is, or 30, which is 0.70, and that would be to the 20 minus 5. And then we stuck it in our calculator. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to say 20 math combination 5. And then we're going to multiply that. And I should have put parentheses around it, so excuse me. So we're going to have 20 math 5, and then 0.7 raised to the fifth. I'm sorry, 0.3, not 0.7. And we have to make a multiplying here. So times 0.30 to the fifth. And then we multiply that by 0.70 raised to the 20 minus 5, which is 15. All right, and we get this probability, 0.17886. All right, so what if for some reason, if P was equal to 0.30 and N was equal to 20, and we wanted exactly 5 successes? And let's use Excel to do that. All right, so here's how we're going to do that. We're going to go into Excel, and the command that we're going to use is we're going to say equal binom dist. And what you'll notice is that this sort of these parameters come up. And number S is the number of successes. So we want 5 successes. The number of trials is 20. The probability of success is 30%, or 0.30. And then finally, the last parameter is if we want the exact, which would be false, and I'm going to write this out in a second, or if we want cumulative, which is true. So we get 0.179 or 0.1788630. And if we go back to our calculator, 0.1788630. Okay, so now we can see that we can use Excel very nicely. All right, and this was the command that we used to be able to do this. So the binom dist command, this is how it works out. Okay, so it's going to ask you first for X, which is going to be the number of successes. It's going to ask you for the number of trials. Then it's going to ask you for the probability of success. And then the last parameter is either true or false. You only use true, or I'm sorry, you only use false if for some reason you want exactly. So exactly is when you would use false. And for any other type, whether you want less than, greater than, whatever it is, that would have to be true. All right, so now here's the real power of Excel. Let's say for some reason I wanted to know in a separate item, what is the probability that if P was equal to 0.30, N was 20, what is the probability of less than 3 successes? All right, and if we did that, well, by hand, we would have to do probability of 0 plus probability of 1 plus probability of 2. All right, and that would be pretty painful. In Excel, it's really easy. Right, so here's how we're going to do this in Excel. We're just going to type equal binom dist. We're going to still type in that there are going to be, this time, 3 successes because we want less than 3. There's still 20 trials. The probability of success is 30%. And this time we're going to type in true. All right. And what this is going to do is it's going to figure out the probability, and it's just going to add all of them up really quickly. All right. So this first one is the probability of exactly 5 successes. This one is the probability of less than 3 successes. Right? And if we wanted to, we could just find this function and we could find 0, 1, and 2 and just add those up. Okay, so if we really wanted to, I'm just copying this over just to show you that we could do this. All right, but this is how you probably want to do it on your assignment. It makes it a little bit easier. And I'm just going to change this to 0. I'm going to change this to 0 here. And then I'm going to copy it 2 more times just to show you what happens. And I'm going to change this to 1. I'm not sure what's going on. Change this to 1. And I'm going to change this to 2 successes. All right. And I'm going to change this to 3. And then I'm going to add these up. All right. And I want you to notice that we get the exact same numbers right here. All right. Now, it includes 3 because it's adding up all of those observations. All right. So if it's really going to be 3 or less successes for us. All right. So be cognizant of that while you're doing it. All right. So that's how we could try to utilize Excel to be able to get less than. Now, what about more than? All right. So what if for some reason I want, for letter C, let's say we want the probability of more than, let's say, 8 successes. Oh boy, that would be tough. Because if we were to do that by hand, we would have to do probability of 9 plus probability of 10 plus probability of 11. And we'd have to keep adding those up until we got to 20. And it's 20, that's the most number. So we literally have to type out about 12 of these, or actually do them by hand. Excel makes it really easy. So here's how we're going to do a more than. We're going to do equal 1 minus the binom dist. So we're going to take the complement. So 1 minus binom dist, 8, comma, 20, comma, 0.3, comma, true. We're just going to hit enter, and that's going to give us our probability. So this is the probability, and I'm just going to copy this, paste it, and just reword it, of more than 8 successes. Right? And then if we want a between, right? Let's say for some reason we want, for letter D, let's say between, let's say 6 and 10 successes. All right. And we're going to treat this just like the normal distribution. So for a more than, remember we subtract from 1. And for between, we just do higher minus lower. Right? And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to do equal binom dist. And we're going to do the higher value first, which is 10. There's still 20 observations or 20 samples, 0.3. And then we are going to do true. And from that, we're going to subtract the exact same thing, except we're going to use 6 and then 20, and then we're going to have 0.3, and we are going to have true as well. All right, so this tells us the probability of between 6 and 10. And again, if you wanted to, you could figure that out by just finding out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and adding them up, but that would be pretty painful. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to type it again. This is the probability of between 6 and 10 successes. Right? All right. So hopefully this helps you to show you how to use the binomial distribution in Excel. All right. So now in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate how to go through and use the Poisson distribution in Excel. But for your assignments, what I'm expecting you to do is expecting you to find the probability and then just type next to it what it is that you just found. Okay. If you ever want to see the commands, all right, so notice what you'll notice is I flip back and forth between the commands and the output. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to hit Control and then the button to the left or to the left of the 1 key. All right, it actually has an accent and a tilde. All right, so to flip back and forth like this, right, what you're going to do is you're going to hit Control first, and then at the same time you're going to hit the key that has like this accent like that on it. Okay, it's next to the number 1, so it's left of 1 key. All right, and again that'll just flip back and forth, which is sometimes useful because then what you could do is you can kind of see what you have, and if you made an error, you can kind of go back and fix that error if necessary.